Jake here for American Trucks, and today I've got the Borla Touring Series rear exit dual exhaust system with chrome tips for 2019 and newer 5.7 liter Ram 1500s. Uncorking that Hemi V8 in your Ram can be a fun thing to explore, but if you want just a bit more noise and performance without going too far up the loudness meter while still retaining a high quality system, then you should look no further than this Touring Series from Borla. Now, the 5.7 liter Hemi can never be accused of sounding boring, but sometimes you just want a little bit more. I mean, half the fun of driving a V8 is the sound after all, and Borla delivers here without blowing out your eardrums. This setup is gonna get a 3 out of 5 on our loudness meter, folks, and people around you are gonna know that something is different about your truck, but you're not going to be getting letters from the HOA over noise violations. Now again, since this is the touring setup, this is perfect for a daily driven truck. So if you're looking for outright raucous sound and volume, this probably is not your system. But as you heard in the clips at the beginning of the video, you do get that deep V8 rumble, an aggressive exhaust note, and it won't be as obtrusive as some other systems. Borla takes great care to make their exhaust in such a way to ensure that there is absolutely no drone. They use something that they call polyphonic harmonizing technology across their entire range. And that sounds like it's a buzzword, but that's exactly the point. There's no buzz coming out of this thing. So this is essentially the same type of science that goes into tuning pipe organs. They use different lengths of pipe to control the different frequencies, thus eliminating obtrusive or dissonant sounds. In this system, that's all contained inside of the muffler here. So that means that you're not going to get that annoying drone noise that you get when you're cruising along the highway like you might with a less expensive or less well-made system. Now, Borla does claim there is zero drone at any speed, at any RPM, in any gear, and that's about as true as it's going to get. And that's about the most important part of this system in my eyes. I'm sure some of you have had some really drony exhausts in the past. I know I have, and they can seriously grate your nerves after even a short while. They might sound great outside, but if there's a way to avoid that drone and keep the good sound, why wouldn't you go out of your way to do that? So here, again, you get that great sound, no drone, and it makes it, again, an ideal setup for that daily driven truck or one that's gonna see a lot of long road trips either by yourself or with the family or friends. You also have the option to add in an additional resonator here if you want to keep things a little more subdued. Borla makes an optional resonator for this system that goes right here at the front behind the flange, so if you want to keep things a little bit quieter while still keeping the sound quality intact, you have the option to do that. Of course, that resonator is going to cost extra, but I just wanted to make you note that the option is available. Now, as far as construction goes, again, this is a really high quality system. Borla makes all of their exhausts out of T304 stainless steel, so you're gonna get excellent corrosion and rust resistance here. And as you can see, just by looking at it, it's a really nice looking exhaust. It's almost a shame that you're not gonna see most of this once it's on the truck. Now, the piping here is all 3-inch mandrel bent tubing. The welds are really excellent too. So all of that means that you're gonna get a great flow through it. All the exhaust gases are gonna flow nice and smoothly. It's gonna allow your engine to breathe better than the stock system. And it also comes with these polished, enormous, dual 5-inch chrome tips to finish the whole thing off. So it's gonna give a nice update to the look of your truck as well. Now, Borla systems do tend to err a bit more on the side of subtlety as compared to others on the market, and that is definitely the case here. Since this exhaust exits in the same location as your factory exhaust, it's going to take a keen eye to notice the difference. They might clock that embossed Borla logo on the edge, or they might notice that these are just a bit bigger than your stock ones. Either way, you're much more likely to hear the difference first, but it's still a nice little visual update. Pricing for this one is going to come in around $1,400, and that puts it pretty much smack dab in the middle of the pack when it comes to exhaust systems for this generation of Ram. Now, you can, of course, go a less expensive route, but you're very likely going to end up sacrificing on material quality, sound quality, or possibly both, and you might run into issues with drone as well. And you're not gonna get all the fancy features or like carbon fiber tips that you get with some of the other really expensive systems, but overall, I think this one really represents an excellent value for your money, and you do tend to get what you pay for when it comes to exhaust systems. Installation for this one will come in at a 2 out of 3 on the difficulty meter, and it should take you about 2 hours to complete. This is a bolt-on system, so it doesn't require any modification to your truck, and you get all the necessary hardware and clamps in the box. It also utilizes all of your factory exhaust hangers, so it's definitely a straightforward installation that you can handle at home. If you've done an exhaust before, you know that it can get a little finicky, especially if you don't have access to a lift. So I would definitely recommend getting a set of hands to help you out with this one, and making sure that you can securely jack the truck up with enough clearance to get the old system off and get this new one on. But that's about the trickiest part of this installation. And with that, let's head over to the install bay now, where we'll walk you through the process.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a flathead screwdriver, a 13, 15, and 16 millimeter socket, a ratchet, an exhaust hanger remover, and a pry bar. What's up, guys? Today we're going to be installing an exhaust on our Ram 1500. So first we're going to watch a quick little uninstall video, and then I'll meet you right back here for the install.
First step here, we're going to grab our hanger removal tool and pop the hanger off right above our resonator on our passenger side tailpipe. The driver's side tailpipe is one piece all the way back to the muffler inlet, so we're going to attack that later. So for right now, we're going to do this, and I've lubricated it with WD-40. That makes life a little bit easier. All right, next step, grab your ratchet and your 15 millimeter deep socket, and we're gonna loosen up the clamp holding the tailpipe to the rest of the exhaust assembly. All right, hanger's out of position, clamp is loosened up. Let's get this exhaust pipe off. All right, so at this point, we're gonna focus on our driver's side tailpipe. Now, like I said, it's all one piece. I have a pull jack here right behind the resonator just to give it some support once we start disconnecting things. I am gonna remove this tip, however. Removing this tip gives you another foot, maybe foot and a few inches of extra space that you don't have to worry about feeding out of the frame. So we're gonna take this guy off with a 13 millimeter socket. Next, we can pop the hanger out of the isolator using our hanger removal tool right above that resonator. All right, so now we can disconnect the hangers right above the muffler outlet. There's one on each side. Grab your hanger removal tool and get these guys off. Now, as you can see, I have a pull jack here supporting this as well, so we have two different points of support for this exhaust. Now for this one, it's tough to get the hanger removal tool in here, so I'm going to use my pry bar to get this guy off. All right, so next up, we're going to focus on this flange here. Now you could bypass this and go straight back to the cat, but that's a lot of exhaust to take off in one piece, so I'm going to separate it here. Now, once we have this taken care of, there is one more hanger to remove, but for now, grab your 16 millimeter socket and disconnect these two bolts. All right, now when you pop this guy out of the hanger isolator, this is all gonna come loose, so you wanna be prepared for that. Before we do so, there's a ground strap here. I'm just gonna disconnect that from the factory tubing. All right, so that way it dangles here and we can reconnect it to our new exhaust later. So now we can grab our hanger removal tool and pop that guy off. All right, now you can take this exhaust off.
So our first step is going to be to mount our muffler pipe. So we're going to slide our back hangers in first to hold it up while we work on our flange, and then we can install our front hanger. So on the flange, we are gonna have to reuse our factory gasket. So we'll slide that over. And then we can meet our flange and slide into our hanger. And then we can reuse our factory bolts. And then we can loosely tighten these until our final adjustment using a 16mm socket. So now we can slide one of our clamps over our pipe and feed through our driver side extension pipe. And then we can slide our clamp into position and loosely secure this using a 15mm socket. So now we're ready to install our driver side tailpipe. So we can take another one of our clamps, slide it over the edge, and then we can lift it up into place. So to make it a little easier to install, we're going to go ahead and remove this hanger. And then we can line our exhaust up. Slide a hanger over our exhaust. So now we can slide our clamp into position and loosely secure this with a 15mm socket. So now we can take our passenger side tailpipe and slide another clamp over the edge. And then we can get this up into place. And then we can slide in our hanger. So now we can slide our clamp into position and tighten that down with a 15mm socket. And be sure to leave this one a little loose as well, and then we'll go back and fully tighten everything down. So now we can start at our flange and go back and tighten everything down completely. We'll be using a 16mm socket on these bolts and 15s on the rest. So also included in the kit is a heat shield. You wrap it around, peel this backing off, and it'll stick down. This is going to go on the brake lines directly above the differential to keep the heat away. For demonstration purposes, we won't be installing this, but it'll be right above your differential.
That's going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the Borla Touring Series rear exit dual exhaust system with chrome tips for 2019 and newer 5.7 liter Ram 1500s. Thank you so much for watching, and for all things Ram, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.